today we are going to restain this L-shaped fence. Instead of using Ready Seal, which is what I normally use, we're going to try the new kit on the block. This is called Accurate Stain and Sealer. And I have checked out all the reviews. It has super high reviews, and I will tell you it runs about half the cost. So if you have the ability to grab this where you're at, I would try it. Now, I say that not putting it on yet. So be sure you stay tuned to the very end so that you can see how well it actually works. Now we're going to use the 4000 PSI DeWalt pressure washer, the same one I've used for several years. It works extremely well. This has the turbo tip on it right now, but we are going to take the turbo tip off and use probably the green tip. One of the things I want to point out to you, when you power wash a fence to get ready to stain, you do not really want to pressure wash it to the point of taking all the stain off. All you're going to do is destroy the wood. You're going to tear it up. We can open up the wood pore slightly, clean it up, get rid of some of the excess that's on it, but you don't want to go any deeper than that or you'll damage the fence. So we are going to do that. We're going to hook it up, put on the red boots, run our water lines. We'll start at the front. We're going to power wash it today, let it dry overnight, and then we are going to come back and we are going to use the airless sprayer and apply the spray. Okay guys, I'm going to go ahead and I've got my water line here. We're going to hook it up. This L shape goes way around that way and up here. So this is the beginning. So we're going to try to get our power washer kind of in the middle. Now I will tell you, we are only doing this side of the fence. If you can talk a customer or customers into doing both sides, the fence is going to last longer. And it's much easier before you get pressure in this to get this straightened out. Once it has pressure in the line, you will never untwist it. So get it straightened out before you get started. Now also, if you don't know, when you go to start up any power washer, whether it is electric, whether it is gas, no matter who makes it, always make sure that you have the water to the unit running first. The reason is if you do not have water running to it first, it will literally burn up your pump. And you want to look and make sure you do not have any bends in your hoses. Do not want to burn that pump up. Now you can use a little small electric washer on this, and I do that occasionally. It's just this will be a little faster. All right, now we're going to turn on the water. Okay, we have water pressure going to the unit. And the other thing I'm going to do is take off my turbo. There we go. Use a little oil in that. Things kind of crusty. I'm going to take out the green tip and put that back in. Put that on and snap this into place. Making sure we have enough water pressure. All right, let's see if we can fire it up. Simply have a switch on the side right here, turn it to on, and we have our throttle. So we are now in fuel on, and we are going to choke. There we go. Always, guys, when you go to start this, start it off of the surface you're cleaning. Do not start it on the surface. It'll gouge. Everything's power washed. So we're going to let it dry overnight, come back tomorrow, and we're going to start spraying. Now, around all these bushes is going to be a little fun. We're going to have to use a brush to kind of get around some of that, I think, to try to keep it off the plants. We're going to do a lot of tarping. If you noticed, I spent a little more time on this section here, going ahead and stripping it down just a little bit more to make sure that the new stain sticks. This is the one part of the entire fence that gets a lot of sun. So I had to spend just a little more time taking a little off, even though I don't really like doing that. I like to try to just gently clean. There are some cleaners you can get that will help you strip down as well if you really need to strip down a lot further. So let's go ahead, get everything put up. We'll be back in the morning and let's get this thing sprayed. All right, guys, I'm going to give you a couple of tips before we start spraying. Now, when you just watched me power wash, that was actually a couple of days ago. Since that time, we have had a bunch of rain. If you have a dirt area like we have here, starting up in the corner and going back to that corner, there's a lot of dirt. It's going to splash up on top of the fence pickets. So you're going to need to take a broom and brush that back off. Make sure that it's off good, because that will definitely show through the actual stain. It will look gritty, it will look bad, it will not look professional. A couple of other things: if there's plants like this, move them back out of the way. If you have plants like this, you can shield them or you can tarp them. I will usually tarp things like this if it's a smaller, like diameter tree that they have planted. I don't like putting tarps on it because I'm afraid it may break. I will usually shield those. I also will use a brush to come back after I spray and brush in around it really good. You're going to see a lot of that on the wall going this way, because they have plants that are actually growing on the fence. And you want to try to keep the stain off of those as much as possible. And so we will end up having to stain around them. In all due honesty, I do not like plants on the fences. One other mistake I see a lot of DIYers make, and even pros for that matter, is they'll have things like this that are growing out. You'll see where I pulled everything off, but you still have the little vines. If you leave that, the spray is going to spray on it. It'll ultimately die, but it's going to leave little lines. Use a good razor knife and cut those off. It will make for a much nicer finish on your fence. This was my testing spot for the new stain, and you can see both of these look pretty close. They're very similar together, but this was a darker color than this color. They were put on at two different times, so we had to pick a stain that was very close, slightly darker than both of them, so that it would actually blend. And then when we power wash, we got off a lot of the excess so that it'll actually be able to penetrate. So after putting this on, they look very close. I think it's going to be a great match. So what we're going to do next is go ahead and get everything mixed up, set up, and we are going to start on the far side. If you're not familiar with these type of tops, they have the little clips. An easy way to open them is use a screwdriver, and you put it in the little slot, just like right here, and you bend it out. There it is. Sometimes you got to give a little more persuasion. So just like that, and that is our tent. And then you're just going to take your paddle mixer and mix a little bit more. Trying not to do what I just did there. Make sure you have a tarp down if you're over concrete. And then we simply are going to take and place this inside. Now I will pull this one off. The last one I did was a water base. Drain off the excess water here, because we're going to have water in the line. So we put it over to start, and we are going to flip the switch. And just so you can see, we're going to have water coming out first. There we go. Now we have the oil, and now it is working its way through the gun. Now let's see what we have coming out. Water. There we go. We're starting to get the oil now. That's it. The tip that we are going to use is going to be the 417, which happens to be the tip I like the most. Now you can use a very small orifice on this because it is going to be oil based. Make sure you have some mineral spirits or paint thinner so that you can clean your machine out when you are done. Let's see, we have a little buildup of old paint here. Let me see if I can get that off. Okay guys, everything is plugged in and working well. One of the things that'll happen a lot of times on these tips is the very end of them will get caked up with a little paint, and actually where it goes into the guard. So you'll need to use a screwdriver to clean that off so that you can get your center spray right in the middle. So that is set up. Some of the things you're going to need is a good guard like this. You can see I use this one a lot. That'll help you. And another thing I'm going to be using because of the vegetation I was talking about earlier is going to be a good stain brush. Now this one is made by Worcester, and it is a very nice brush. I'll leave a link for it. All right guys, I'm going to try to talk with this mask on. Hopefully you can hear me. You definitely, if you're using oil base, you want to be wearing a mask, but I wear a mask even with latex. So you're going to take your gun, and we're going to start about 12 inches away. I usually pick one spot over here, but I'm going to hit this one first just to show you how it's done. And I spray just like that. If I don't want it on the poles, I can go like this with the guard. If you have steel poles, you're going to want to take and rub off the excess. Now you can go from the top all the way to the bottom if you want to keep it off the grass. Now pay close attention underneath. So I will do it like that. I will wipe off any excess like that. And then I use my brush and I will brush it and even it out. Just like that. Just like that. Now that spot looks weak. I didn't hit it right. And make sure it's good. That's pretty much, guys, what I am going to do all the way around. Okay guys, it is a super hot day here in Texas. This is my second set of clothes. I look like I had crawled out of a pool, but this is dried. It's been about 2 hours. Now you can see we have a problem right in through this area. It is slightly lighter. So we are fixing to go over it with a second coat to try and fix that. Now the sun sets in the west this way, and in the afternoon it just bakes this. There are no trees here to block this area. Now speaking of that, all the little flags you see here, they are going to be planting some trees, which is going to block a lot of the sun off of this. That's why we were trying to get this done now before the trees get placed. So we're going to go back and start in this corner and go over another coat and use the brush and try to pay close attention to these areas right in through all through here and make it even out. So let's do that. All right, guys, it's time for the second 5-gallon drum. There you go. It has set over the weekend. Sprinklers were turned off. We got no rain. It was able to soak in really well. I think it came out really good. The bottom section I was having trouble with because it was extra dried out. This whole section gets hit with a bunch of sun every afternoon. Now, that was a full 2 coats all the way around and about a half a coat through some of this area again. Now, I am 95% done. I am not totally done. There are things that I like to do after this. For one, I'm going to go and I'm going to fix a lot of these boards on especially this wall. The other ones seem to be great. This wall is kind of bowed out in areas. And you're probably asking yourself, why don't you fix that first and then stain? I like to stain so that it gets behind those boards, because if I have a hard time closing those gaps and it doesn't close all the way, I want to make sure it's fully treated so it doesn't get worse. That's why I do it that way. Now, also, there's this area, very good. This area over here has a few spots that it's a little bit more aged. The fence is a little older than this side. I'm going to go back with a hand brush and hit spots that didn't quite get the stain on it the way I like it. Once that's all done, we're pretty well finished.